Hi, and welcome to the 31st episode of Basha's Thoughts. Today I'd like to talk to you about an idea that is going deeper. And going deeper so that you can actually start moving up on a spiral that with every iteration becomes better and better for everyone. And so it's a spiral that moves you and others away from suffering. This is something that was inspired based on the idea of us actually living in a world that is mostly based on competition, where we compete. So we fight each other for resources and all kinds of things. This is a mentality that we have had for a very long period of time, and it's also something that might be related to maybe even the first episode where we talked about the more feminine and the more masculine types of energies, and that we're moving into something that might be called a more, perhaps, feminine type of energy. So the masculine energy in this sense is about action and doing. We have many very action-oriented societies on Earth today. And so that kind of means that we're looking at goals. This idea of competition is about optimization. We optimize for winning. So we usually optimize for one thing. Sometimes we do consider other parameters as well, but there is this strong idea of optimizing for one thing. And of course, whenever you do that, problems arise. And whenever you do that and you have high tech, as Daniel Schmachtenberger talks about, the exponential tech that we have is leading us to our demise because of how we're using it. And at the basis of it is this competition mindset. So this competition mindset that has to do with doing primarily and goals is something that keeps us in a lot of suffering, because we will do to be happy and not out of happiness most of the time. And then we get another goal and another. And whenever we optimize for one thing, like our society often optimizes for the most amount of money, well, then a lot of disasters appear around us. And incentives for hurting others come up. We have incentives for hurting our opponent. In the worst cases, that might actually be eliminating them, killing them. In other cases, it's to disadvantage them in some sense. It will depend on the game we're playing. That's the opponent, but it's not only the opponent. If we can sometimes find an advantage by taking advantage of our surroundings, we will do that too. So this game makes us hurt each other, others as well outside of the game, and other species, the whole planet in fact. So we have incentives to lie, cheat, and steal as long as we can get away with it within this game. And all of that comes up from this dynamics of competition. An alternative to that would be this spiral that I was talking about in the beginning. It's a spiral where with every iteration, everything becomes better for everyone. That's kind of the idea. So there's no win and lose, there is all win for everyone. And we do continue evolving because we evolve together. We collaborate and we move up higher and higher all together. And this is more in line with what could be seen as the feminine energy, the receptive energy, or the energy of being instead of acting. In this scenario, we start by actually being happy, and then we do act. That energy is still there, but we act out of happiness, not to become happy. And just that shift will shift a lot of our suffering. So we no longer have to learn through suffering, which is the paradigm that we have been in for a very long period of time. So now, what does this new paradigm actually look like? Because it can be tricky to understand what it entails if we have grown up in something that is completely different. Well, it turns out that a lot of concepts that we might actually see as positive ones in the win-lose society are not what we're looking for at all in this spiraling society, upward spiraling society. And the idea here is that if we can go deeper, we can usually reconnect and find our way into the dynamics that moves us into an all-win situation. So that's the idea. Go deeper, let go, surrender. So that is falling into being as opposed to acting as a particular agent. Whenever we can start using that in different situations, then we can start seeing how this dynamics works. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. So one of the things that many people will see as a really positive thing is the idea of compromise. Yes, we have reached a compromise. Great, now we are all happy. Or are we? Often when you will ask someone, so what is a relationship? I've heard this so many times. People will say, well, that's a series of compromises. You have to learn how to compromise. If you want to have a relationship, that's what you have to learn. But see, all of that is within this competitive type of dynamics, not within the new system. So how do you go deeper? How do you go beyond compromise? What does that mean in this case? So go deeper means exactly that. Let go. So whenever you have a situation with someone else, perhaps in your relationship, well then you let go and you go deeper into what really matters. Go deeper into what really is essential. What do you actually need? What do you actually want? What does the other person actually really need? And connect. When you connect, you are both connected together. And when you are connected together, when you open to the other, well then you have a chance of moving up together and both at the same time in the spiral dynamics. So when you are connected, you can then find the situation, the particular strategy that will bring you whatever it is that you are both looking for. Because you start out from the connected state, the state where you know what is essential. And it is based on that you're solving whatever it is you're solving. This is pretty much the basics of nonviolent communication, where you would have two people sit down and each person would start out by saying what the other person actually needs. And when they both can state that very clearly and the other person agrees, well, then the solution appears very quickly for them. So that's the idea. So compromise means basically give up a little bit and lose a little bit. Both lose a little bit, but you kind of move on. And in the other dynamics, what you do is you reconnect, and that opens up your heart. And from there, you move up and you spiral up together and you find a solution where both of you are truly happy about it. There are many other words and ideas that we tend to see as positive ones in this competitive dynamics. Another one is sacrifice. Very often we will see sacrifice as a way of saying love. Well, if I'm willing to sacrifice myself for something, well, then I must truly love it. That is real love. If you give up something. But is it really? If you give it up in a way where you suffer, which is what most people mean by sacrifice. Otherwise, you wouldn't say it's a sacrifice. No, I had a great time. I did exactly what I wanted. And it was a sacrifice? Was it? Well, no, usually a sacrifice means that you actually suffered for something, but you did it for the good of something else, or the group, or someone else. And in the spiraling dynamics, you would use principles that you have, for instance, in Buddhism. When you talk about the 10 paramis, for instance, and these are kinds of virtues that you would practice. And the first one is generosity, right? So when you're practicing generosity, the main idea is to practice it so that it's expansive for you, so that you expand and grow. In what way? Upwards on this spiral where everyone is moving up together. That's the idea. So if you practice generosity by, say, giving someone money, and you feel, well, actually I wanted to buy something, but I gave someone this money and I won't be able to buy that thing that I really wanted to buy this month, but it's okay. I'm making the sacrifice. I'm practicing my generosity. Good. You're not really practicing your generosity on the level that you could, on the ecstatic level, on the level that is truly joyous, and on the level that is really truly moving everyone up on the spiral. See, this is kind of important because we have been so deeply steeped in this win-lose dynamics. We will try to sneak it in through the back door, even when we're trying to create this other system. For instance, one might try to create control mechanisms that are self-control mechanisms so that we all act for the best of all. But actually inside of us, we might feel like we're sacrificing ourselves, like we're giving up something. And I've even heard people suggest things such as using shame in order to make ourselves do things so that it's good for the good of all. But this again, it's a way of sneaking in the win-lose dynamics. We are interested in the win-win, all-win dynamics. And so we don't want to wage internal war while externally looking as though we are acting accordingly, because that internal war will affect our actions in the end, even though in the moment it is better to act for the best of all and feel a little bit bad than to act in a negative way for all. But that is not the only option. We also have the option of actually acting again by going deeper. So we're going deeper, we're letting go, and we are reconnecting with our heart. Because when we do that, when we act with love and from love, what usually could be seen as a sacrifice is not a sacrifice. It is even possible to give your life to something or someone and do so truly joyously and it not be a sacrifice for you. This dynamics, this idea of going deeper and reconnecting with ourselves is based on just that, on identifying who we are and acting from our essential self. And it's really interesting because there is actually something there that can help us move into this space and organize things from that space. Let me give you a couple of anecdotes. My cousin told me what it was like when her father was dying. She was with him in the hospital, in his room, and she was there for days. My cousin is devotedly Catholic, so she really believes. And so that means that it is important to do the last sacrament so that you can save the soul of a person and so that they may go to heaven. But her dad, he was anti-Catholic. He did not like the church. He did not believe in God or any of that. And so he did not ask for the last sacrament. And here he was right now, almost dying, and he was unable to speak. And my friend was deeply troubled because she really believed in that. And so she was thinking, here I am, maybe he has changed his mind. Maybe he really wants the last sacrament. Maybe I can do it somehow, bring a priest or something and save his soul. What should I do? And she was deeply, deeply troubled by this and a number of other things. So she sat down by his bed and she started to pray. She had a prayer book and she started to read rhythmically the prayers. And she started to let go of her thoughts, let go of her ideas, and go deeper and deeper into a state of surrender, where she was surrendering to her God. She was no longer aware of the words that she was mumbling. It was all very rhythmical. Everything started to disappear for her, even time. She dissolved, time dissolved. And after a while, she came out of this state. And as she came out of this state, she was presented with a world that started giving her synchronicities, and all of them bringing her answers within a couple of minutes. She stepped outside of the room where her father was, and there in the hallway she found a priest. And it was actually a friend of hers who she had not seen for decades, and he had become a priest. And without him knowing anything about the situation that she was in right now, and without being asked, he started automatically giving her all the solutions to her problems. And in a way that she was able to take it in, believe in it, and follow it. And after that, a series of synchronicities continued happening around all of them, so that basically all of them were elevated to a higher plane, in the sense that it was a win solution for everyone, for her dad, and even for the priest. And they all moved up, winning. And this is just one anecdote, but this isn't something that is strange and only happens to the deeply religious. This is something that I've experienced myself, although I am not Catholic. But it was the same procedure, it was the same principle at play. Letting go, going deeper and deeper into myself, basically. Letting go of everything and just surrendering. And after a time in that state, when I emerged, I was presented with a world that started answering my questions in the most enchanting ways. These, again, are only anecdotes, but they point to a deeper principle, and they point to something that we're moving towards. This idea of starting to use that state, the state where all possibilities coexist, and from there, moving up. When we can use the power of that, then we can all move up together. When we can connect, then we can all find solutions for all. That's the idea. And so one might ask, but What is it right now in the world that is stopping society and people from moving into this beautiful spiral dynamics? Why are we still competing so harshly? What is it? Well, yes, this is something that we have learned, but is there something like that juvenile hormone that is preventing us from becoming mature? What is that? I see a couple of ingredients in this. One of the major ones I see is fear. The state of fear brings about rivalry. It brings about competition. And we are afraid that we might not survive, that we might not have enough, that we might be humiliated, that we might look bad and suffer the consequences, that we might be ostracized, that we might not be a part of a group, and so on. All of those fears reduce us, and they bring us also into something that could be seen as a separate ingredient, and it is misidentification. We see ourselves as this little part, this body perhaps, this particular identity that we cling on to, and then we fight to keep it. But that is not us. We are much greater. And it is when we tap into that, by starting to identify with who we truly are, with our essence, and seeing our interconnectedness, by moving deeper, going deeper, letting go, surrendering, and then moving into aligned action, we can all start experiencing this upward moving spiral where we all become better and better together. So that was it for today. I'll talk to you in another podcast episode. Take care.